I'm standing in the kitchen of my house in Chicago, separating 20 years of accumulated stuff into boxes that are marked mine and boxes that are marked his. The kitchen counter is covered with spoons and tape and spatulas, and so when I pick up a pile of packing paper, I have to set it down on the only empty space. I lean in to get a glass at the back of the counter, and that's when I hear the clicking sound of the igniter. And I look down and I see the entire pile of paper that I've just set down on the stove is on fire. And there's a clear voice in my head, and it says, "Let the motherfucker burn." A couple months before, my husband blindsided me with the news that he wanted a divorce. My husband's an attorney, so right away he started to tell me how Illinois divorce law worked and what I could expect in the way of alimony and divided assets. He says we can each hire our own attorney and let them fight it out, but that'll just drain the bank accounts. The other option is we can go to mediation, and that'll be a much more civil process. And while he's talking, I start to put the pieces of a puzzle together. He's leaving me for someone, and it's somebody that I know. In fact, she was invited to our wedding 20 years before. Now, I had watched my own parents fight for years when my father left my mother for a woman he met at work, and I did not want a repeat of that in my life. And so the very same night that I learned I was going to be divorced, I agreed to mediation because it would take less time, it would cost less, and there'd be less drama. My husband told me that he actually had a list of mediators that one of his colleagues had given him. I was surprised that he was so prepared. But the next morning, when he sends me the email, he actually forwards the entire chain of communication that went back and forth between them. And so I read it. And that's when I learned he's been planning this for 6 months. And suddenly the idea that we are going to get through this divorce with less drama, it seems a lot less likely. But still, we manage to pick one name from the list. We choose our mediator, we make an appointment, we have a date. But as we're getting closer and closer to the date, his tone starts to change. He starts to backpedal about promises he's made and things he's told me. He actually one day refers to our joint assets as the fruits of his labor. Now, he's not wrong. I work in the arts, and so in my very best year, he made 5 times what I made, but I thought we were partners. And so for the first time in my marriage, I feel like my contributions are less than. My husband bought a condo and he moved out, and he left me alone in the house to manage repairs and oversee contractors. We all do the same thing when we're gonna move. We paint the hallway that we'd been meaning to paint for 10 years. We fix the crack in the fireplace we had stopped noticing. We buy the pretty shower curtain because it's gonna look really nice in the pictures on Zillow. And so there I was in my house, fixing it up for the next people who were going to live there, and I just wanted it to be over. We were getting closer to the date where we were gonna list the house, and so I asked him to come over and help while I packed up the kitchen, which he agreed to do. So every now and again, he would come into the kitchen, he would pick up a box, he'd carry it out to the garage, and then he'd disappear upstairs for a while. So I'm standing in the kitchen. I reach for the glass at the back of the counter. I hear the clicking sound, and I look down and I see the burning pile of paper. The voice says, "Let the motherfucker burn." And then I ignore the voice. I scoop up the entire burning pile into my arms, which sends flames shooting up toward the ceiling. I throw it in the sink, I turn on the water, I reach down under the cabinet, and I grab a fire extinguisher, and I point it at the air. And in a moment, there is a snowfall of that fine, fine yellow dust from the extinguisher, and there are feathers of gray ash that are falling to the ground around my feet. And that's when he walks back into the kitchen. So when I heard the voice say, let the motherfucker burn. Was I thinking about the house, or was I thinking about him? I don't know. Thank you.